territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Hello, Mac Packet. It's great to be back with you. As you can see, we're running a couple of minutes behind here, behind schedule, so I do apologize about that. I had a few technical difficulties that were, as usual, my fault. So, anyway, guys, I apologize about that. But if you're new to the program, my name is Mac Worley III, and this is On the Move, the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. Today's date is April 19th, 2015, and today I want to talk about a couple different things that are, obviously important to me, but just so you know, today's show is titled Gun Control, Flag Desecration, and BLM. This is episode 69 of our program, and thank you so much for joining us, first and foremost. If you are new to the program, we broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss all things liberty, guns, government, stuff like that. And just so you know, we simulcast at the same time on a website called haywiregulch.com, haywiregulch.com. And you can check us out there, or you can check us out at our hub, OnTheMoveShow.com. That's where we broadcast. That's where most of our stuff happens. And in addition to that, you can check us out on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And also, if you guys would do me a favor and just follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow, I would really appreciate that as well. Anyway, at this time, actually, I'm noticing that we have a caller. I'm going to go ahead and put the caller on the line. And I'm not sure if this is a guest that I had who was going to be coming on a little later in the show. If it is, we'll go ahead and just take it now. Hey, caller.
Hi, Mac.
Hey, this is Mac with On the Move. You are live on the air right now. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Mac. My name's Norm Voschel. I'm with Recall Chuck Riley.
Yes, sir. Yeah, actually, we were expecting your call. So, actually, I'm happy that you called now. This works out perfect. So, first of all, can you give us a little bit of information about what you guys are trying to do and why you're trying to do it, first of all?
Well, it all kind of started with, a lot of us obviously live in the district, and we had just been looking at the last election, what had happened between Chuck Riley and Bruce Starr,
and what
the way the
district
election
is this
planned
again?
out. I'm sorry?
What district is this again, just so our listeners out there know?
Senate District 15, it's Washington County in Oregon.
Okay.
So we cover Hillsborough, Cornelius, and Forest Grove.
All right, and you were saying about what happened during the election?
Yeah, so when you look at the election, it honestly ended up being the most expensive election in Oregon history, clearing nearly $2 million for a state Senate seat. But when you dig a little deeper into the campaign finances, you see that, for instance, Chuck Riley, the Democrat who ended up winning by a mere 287 votes, 72% of the trackable donations he got, which by trackable it's everything over $1,000, were from out of the state. Not just out of the district, but out of the entire state.
Okay.
So you have billionaires from California and New York who are dumping in hundreds of thousands of dollars into a state senator's campaign from Oregon.
Absolutely.
I
can
most
see how that's a
billionaires
problem.
that I know don't give up hundreds of millions of dollars without a reason, or hundreds of thousands of dollars without a reason.
And you're talking about, this is Senator Chuck Riley in Oregon.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so he's received, 72% of his trackable funds were from out-of-state donations. Obviously, he has, when you receive money like that, you obviously have to pay back those people in some way, be it policy or special favors, something along those lines. So this is the kind of things that you're concerned about. So what has he done since the election?
Well, kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for us was obviously Senate Bill 941. It's our universal background check bill. One of the guys that initially was involved in it has a CNR license, so the Curio and Relic FFL. And he reached out to some of the members of the Oregon legislature, and they assured him they knew about it. There would be special language in the bill. Totally got left out. So in Oregon, federal firearms licensees who have CNRs, so they've, gone through the ATF, told the ATF what they're doing, got the permits, gone through all the background checks, can no longer deal in firearms in Oregon because of this new bill, which is pretty similar to what Washington had last year.
Yeah, you're talking about I-594, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have people who don't know about guns basically circumventing the policy of the federal government's gun regulatory apparatus.
Exactly. So in terms of what you guys are trying to pull together, you guys are trying to actually recall Chuck Riley, and is there someone else? I believe it was State Representative Susan McLean. Is that right?
Yeah. So we're also looking. We've also filed against State Representative Susan McLean. She has her House district is inside of Senate District 15. So we're kind of running both at the same time. And kind of a lot of the same issues roll around between them. It's issues that we've seen that they don't really go with Washington County. They go with either the party or the interests that have basically paid for their election.
Yes, sir. All right. So stand by one moment here. We have another caller that we're going to go ahead and add to the call. I'm not sure if they have anything that they would like to ask you or add to this conversation. So our new caller we got here, what's your name and what are you calling about?
This is Karen Hardiman, Mac. I was calling to give you all an update about Charles Dyer.
Oh, okay. Would you mind calling us back in a couple moments here? We're in the middle of an interview here with someone else, so I apologize about that. But yeah, we're already talking about one topic here. So give us like 10 minutes. Does that work for you, Karen?
Okay, sure thing.
All right, thank you. All right, sorry about that. So, as far as what you're doing right now with trying to oppose these two representatives, you got Senator Chuck Riley, you got State Representative Susan McLean, and you're trying to recall both of these individuals because of their involvement in Senate Bill 941, which is in fact a universal background check. Is that correct?
Well, that's one of many reasons. When we talk to people, it's not just that. It has to do with both of them voted to underfund K-12 education in Oregon, despite knowing for a fact and getting testimony that the funding bills that they wanted to approve would not provide the amount that we need to make sure kids are getting educated in Oregon. And we have some of the lowest education pass rates in the country, and we're going to underfund them now.
I see.
In addition, they both are opposed to the gain share programs that Washington County, because we have Intel and Nike, a gain share program is set up basically where they don't have to pay certain taxes to the county, but as a result, the extra income taxes created by their expansion in the state get sent back to the county. Well, both of them, with the Democratic Party, essentially they want to keep that amount from going back to the county and keep it at the state level so that the legislature can control it.
Understood. So as far as for the recall process, what are you guys doing right now? What is it that anyone who's interested in helping can do? What do you need right now?
Yeah, so, we filed our petition with the Secretary of State last week, and that's been approved. We are currently, we filed our templates for our signature forms with the Secretary of State's office, and we're waiting on a return on those. They just need to sign off and say, okay, they're good to go. And we should get those back. We're hoping tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. For now, we really need volunteers to sign up because we're going to need people, petitioners out there to help us get signatures. And we could also use money. When you look at the recalls in Colorado, they spent about $100,000 just on legal fees to prevent their, legally run recall from being overturned through basically a bunch of, legal hoops and trying to, call out dotting the I's and, crossing the T's.
Yes, sir.
So people can, if they're looking for information, they can go to our website. It's www.recallchuckriley.com or our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/recallriley.
Okay, so recallchuckriley.com. So anybody out there who would like to get involved, please go check that out. And do you guys have any other social media, any other campaigns going on right now that people can help get involved that way as well?
We will soon have we'll soon have the Recall Susan McLean website up, and I encourage other people to get involved with the Hoyle recall, which is down south of us. There's another gentleman who is down there that's also recalling him too. So not affiliated with us, but we support his efforts.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck, and if you guys have any new changes or developments in what's going on, please feel free to give me a holler. Let me know, and let our audience here know what's going on and anything that you may need them to do. I'm sure many people will be very interested in what's going on. I'll be trying to follow this as closely as I can. So just make sure you stay in touch with me and let me know if there's any new developments, okay?
Yeah, we'll do, Mac, and I hope your move goes smoothly.
Oh, thank you. I really do appreciate that, Norm.
No problem. Have a good day, man.
You too. Take care. Alrighty, guys. So, yeah, again, that's recallchuckriley.com. Check them out if you guys are interested in getting involved. If you have anything that you'd like to contribute. I can't speak right now. Contribute to this movement. And again, this is not something that is undoable. It's not like this hasn't been done before. We saw in Colorado where there was a recall effort and it was successful. And it just so happened to be after they passed some gun restrictions, which is exactly what these people have done. We've got Chuck Riley and let's see here. Let me just double check here the information. I believe it's Susan McLean, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes. State Representative Susan McLean. So they have helped pass this Senate Bill 941, universal background checks. And this is a concept, the whole idea of a universal background check. First of all, it doesn't solve anything as far as crime is concerned. We'll get into the actual holes in the argument of background checks, and today we're talking about gun control. So we're going to talk a whole lot about this when we get back. I want to dive right into the gun control. If Karen's out there, if you want to call back and give us some updates about Charles, I'd be happy to give you some time here before we get into this conversation. And anyway, at this point, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're either going to be on the line with Karen or we're going to be talking about gun control. So we'll be right back. Do not go anywhere.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore. With the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mac Worley III.
And we're back. Anyway, guys, so we have a whole lot to get to today. Got a whole lot of stuff that is on the agenda, on the menu for you to digest. We're going to break it down, get right to it. But before we actually do get into the gun control conversation, there's something that I feel I need to say. Today is Patriots Day. For those of you who do not know, who are unaware, today is the anniversary of April 19th is the anniversary of Patriots Day, marking the opening salvo of the American Revolution in 1775. And it's the first step towards the establishment of an eternal declaration of human liberty, subordinating the rule of men to the rule of law. And I'm reading this from an article here written by Mark Alexander on patriotpost.us, and it's called Patriots Day, Sons of Liberty, Then and Now. And I want to read a few sections of this here to you guys so you can get an idea as to some parallels of what we see today and what our founders, our forefathers, were looking at and what they were faced with at this time in history. So, first of all, let me just read here a quote by George Washington in 1776. "Let us therefore rely upon the goodness of the cause and the aid of the Supreme Being, in whose hands victory is, to animate and encourage us to great and noble actions. The eyes of all of our countrymen are now upon us. Let us therefore animate and encourage each other, and shew the whole world, that a free man contending for liberty on his own ground is superior to any slavish mercenary on earth." And of course, at this point in history, it's actually interesting that he's talking about slavish mercenaries. There were mercenaries that were fighting for the crown, and they were German mercenaries, if I'm remembering correctly. I wish I could remember what their names are. In fact, I'm going to look that up here. Let's see, German mercenary. Let's see, what was it? Revolutionary War. They had a specific Hessians. There we go, Hessians. So these guys, they looked actually pretty interesting. If you're interested in looking up their uniform and attire and all of that, it was actually pretty interesting. It's Hessian, Hessians, and they were in the Revolutionary War, and they were fighting against our founders. You know, the revolutionaries that were fighting against the crown. So, anyway, let me get back to this article here. I want to read a couple different things here throughout the history here. It's kind of interesting to go back and see what would happen in that time period. So in December of 1773, the Sons of Liberty, a group of Boston radicals acting under leadership of Samuel Adams, galvanized a rebellion against authoritarian colonial rulers through the simple act of dumping tea into the Boston harbor, a protest of a small 3-pence tax levied by the British. That event was immortalized as the Boston Tea Party, and was the inspiration for the rising rebellion in this era called the Tea Party movement. 16 months after the Boston Tea Party, the first Patriots' Day began with the horseback gallop of Paul Revere and William Dawes, just after midnight en route to Concord, Massachusetts. Their mission was to warn John Hancock and Samuel Adams that the British troops were coming to arrest them and seize their weapons. The British understood that to render neutral any resistance to tyranny, they must first disarm the people and remove from them the Palladium of the Liberties. I don't know what that is. Anyway, Revere was captured, but Dawes and Samuel Prescott. Man, I cannot speak today. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, Revere was captured, but Dawes and Samuel Prescott, who joined them along the way, escaped and continued toward Concord. Dawes later fell from his horse, but Prescott, who knew the area well enough to navigate rapidly at night, made it to Concord in time to warn the Sons of Liberty. All right, so we have two callers here. I'm gonna take Karen right now. In one moment here. Let's see. Okay. Hey, is this Karen?
No, I'm good.
Hey, caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is this Karen?
It sure is.
All right, Karen. So you're on the air right now. So let me just go ahead and get back to what was going on with the situation. Let's lay down the foundation of what's going on with Charles, first of all, for our listeners who don't know what happened. Can you give a little background and describe what Charles is facing, what situation he's in right now?
Sure. Charles is an 8-year Marine Corps veteran. Whenever he was in the service, he started, noticing that things just wasn't right. He joined the Patriot community. He began making YouTube videos under the name July 4 Patriot. Encourage everyone to look those videos up and view them. They're very powerful. He gave speeches at Tea Party rallies, just out there, encouraging people to learn their rights and exercise them. Whenever he was doing all this, he was going through a divorce with his ex-wife, and they were in a pretty heated custody dispute. She came up with some allegations that he had molested his daughter, which have been proven to be false. He went through 3 trials. On the 3rd trial, he was convicted. However, in the trial that he was convicted in, the DNA evidence, which proves that he's innocent, he was, like I said, he was cleared by DNA, computer forensics, a whole slew of evidence. They never presented that to the jury, and he has been fighting it through the appeals process. His post-conviction relief application and request for an evidentiary hearing was denied by the district court, and then he appealed that decision to the Oklahoma Criminal Court of Appeals, and they overturned the district court's dismissal and remanded it back to the district court so that they ruled that his evidence should have been allowed in for that. So that's where we're at right now.
Yes, ma'am. So you said you had some updates, right? So has anything changed?
Yeah, well, the update is, I just give it to you. He has won the major thing through OCCA. OCCA ruled that the evidence will be allowed in, and once that's entered in, he's finally we hope he'll get to come home. He'll be home before Christmas, because you can't hold somebody in prison that's been proven innocent by DNA. Mm-hmm. It's I just don't see how anybody could argue for that or even support those actions. So we're extremely happy right now, and we're actually kind of glad to see a little bit of justice. It's this whole thing has been crazy from day one. I can't even imagine how a district attorney and even the judge, they all here in Stevens County, they were blocking it. They were trying to keep that evidence out, and the state Supreme Court ruled that, or the state Court of Appeals ruled that they had to allow it in.
Right.
So that is a major victory for Charles and for us in the Patriot community. And, I hope whenever this is all over that these people who have continuously violated laws can be held accountable for their actions. Everything from the wife to, the district attorney and people that this has just been a travesty of the justice system.
Absolutely.
And of course, our biggest hope still is, to this day, we talk so much about the computer forensic evidence. I know the last time I was on your show, that's, we were really talking about that. And that's a very important factor in this case, because nobody likes, anybody to harm a child. And during the child's testimony, the acts that she described was actually found on his wife's computer. And that's a very troubling fact, is how this child was viewing this pornography and could describe these acts, and to this day, nobody's investigated it. Mm-hmm. There have been people, I know for a fact that people have personally called the sheriff and the district attorney and said, hey, look, why are y'all, you're supposed to be protecting children. Why are you not investigating this? It's been 5 years. Why is it just swept under the rug? It's insane.
Absolutely, yeah, and I agree with you. How long has Charles been locked up right now? He's been
fighting this right at the 5-year mark.
Wow, has he been in prison for 5 years though?
He was in and out. That's total that he's been fighting this.
Wow,
yeah.
that is unbelievable. So
total.
Obviously, it's still a long road ahead of him. He's not out of the woods yet, but that is a major victory, being able to have his DNA evidence being allowed in court. As far as why it wasn't presented by his attorney in the first place, do you have any information as to why that wasn't in the first place?
No, sir. We do not know. It was our understanding that it should have been presented in the third trial. The attorney just prematurely rested. Nobody was expecting him to rest the case when he did. Mm-hmm. And, of course, afterwards he came back and said that he was, I don't know. I can't, like I said, I'm just going to not speculate, because I am too personally involved, honestly, to say anything other than the guy is scum. Yeah. So I'm just going to, somebody would have to ask that attorney what he was thinking. I can't imagine what defense attorney on the planet would not present DNA and computer forensic evidence exonerating their defendant. I've never even heard of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's also another troubling fact, and it kind of calls out the corruption and the underhandedness that a lot of these prosecutors nowadays are using, because in the American Bar Association, they're supposed to have codes and standards of conduct. And one of those calls for, on the prosecution side even, that if it is known that there is evidence that exonerates a defendant, they are not supposed to withhold it from the jury.
Understood. Yeah, it should be criminal if you know that you're actually withholding information that could keep the person out of jail that you're trying to defend. Obviously, that is something that is an issue, and I think that they should be both the attorney that he hired should be held accountable, but obviously people who levy charges against him if they are proven to be false. And obviously, there's still more time that needs to be spent on this. It's not going to be something that's going to be over tonight or anything. But yeah, I understand how frustrating it could be. I'm in my own legal battle myself, and it is a very, very slow trudge through the courts. It's not something that you can just get a conviction overturned overnight, and there is a stigma behind it too, because when you have a conviction, obviously people think that you're guilty, and if there were problems in the first trial, that's not necessarily the case. So
absolutely, and that's with the nature of the charges too, self included. I have a daughter myself, and the thought of anybody harming a child just sickens my stomach. And when something comes across to any good-natured person that, somebody was found guilty of doing this, your first thought is, really? Well, they're a horrible monster. Mm-hmm. But then whenever you kind of, in this case, which, I've known Charles a long time, he's but whenever you go and you actually look at the evidence, and I think the most aggravating thing is that the evidence is out there. This evidence has been put up on websites even for people to say, hey, you know what, you want to say that, he's a monster? Well, explain why. It says right here that the DNA says that, he's innocent. Mm-hmm. Here's the computer proof, of the searches and the images that were on this woman's computer. They during the computer forensics, I'm sorry if my mind's all over the place. This news is still very fresh, and I'm still very exhilarated over it. It's been a long time coming to have a ray of sunshine, but searches of how to win custody disputes, how to make people lose their parental rights, and pornographic images. All this stuff was found on this woman's computer. Mm-hmm. Along with the DNA that says that there were no epithelial skin cells of the child's on his bed where it was supposed to have happened, and none of his DNA was found on her clothing. So,
Yeah, no, I understand.
You can't argue with DNA, and that's what I tell people. I'm like, look, we all hate child molesters. We all hate bad people that harm children. But, there's this sad fact that there's a lot of really crappy people in this world that will use false allegations to ruin people, whether it's in custody disputes, mm-hmm. whether it's, and I think it goes even a little further than that. These people, they I think a lot of the biggest reason why they've tried to keep the evidence out of the courts and keep this an ongoing thing with Charles is because he was such an outspoken patriot. Mm-hmm. He was one of the very first to start making the videos on YouTube and all the speeches that he gave and he played a major part in growing the patriot community as a whole.
So, Karen, I know you've been struggling with this for a long time, and you've been his biggest advocate. Basically, as far as everything I've seen you doing, I know you guys have a group together on there. So I want to give you an opportunity so people can go there, get all the information, hear all the different evidence that you've presented, because you use this group as a way to give all this evidence to people out there so they can see it for themselves. So what is the name of the group again, and where can people go to find it?
Okay, on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, just type in the search Patriots for Justice in the case of Charles Dyer. Again, that is Patriots for Justice in the case of Charles Dyer. That's all that comes up. There's a couple of other pages that have similar titles, but that is our official page. I'm also on Facebook. I give updates weekly. Up there, every Saturday I go and visit Charles, and I give updates on how the case is going, how he's doing, and I encourage everyone to go there, join, support him, read. We've got so much information uploaded in the group documents. There's tons of things that, if people are interested, they can go there, they can look at it, and and also there is another website that we haven't put anything up on it for a long time. I don't think we're even able to add anything else, but a lot of the other stuff can be found at www.scribd, that's SCRIBD.com /July 4 and Patriot. So it reads www.scribd.com /July 4 Patriot. And the neat thing with the Scribd site is that, there's a lot of the court stuff that was able to be uploaded there. I believe that we've got the DNA up there as well. But there's also some writings on that site that Charles has done since he has been incarcerated.
Yes,
he's continued, being active and not letting his voice be silenced throughout all this, So he's still very, very much trying to keep the word out there and inspire people and fight the battle Karen, at the same time.
I can tell you, Karen, he's definitely lucky to have you in his corner. I've seen the effort that you're putting in to free him and everything that you're doing to get the information out. First of all, I just have to say kudos to you and keep up the good work. And if you do have any other changes or updates or anything, feel free to let us know.
Max, thank you. I really appreciate the kudos and everything, but I can't take a pat on the back because I'm going to tell you right now, Charles and his family have been there for me. I know them personally. I have for a very long time. Charles has been my best friend for years. And I hate to see bad things happen to good people. And I hate to see so many things going on. And not just with Charles's case. We've seen other cases anywhere from people being killed, like David Crawley, to people like Casey Massey being arrested, to I could sit here all night and just name names of these people that are fighting these horrible battles, and it kills me and it breaks my heart, and I wish that I could just reach out there and help each and every person, but it is personal for Charles, and had I not known him and his family the way that I do, and believe wholeheartedly that this man is totally innocent, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Yes,
and they are, like I said, good people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's one of those things that I know you don't want to accept the kudos, but I'm giving them anyway because it takes a lot to stand next to somebody with these kind of charges levied against them, and it kind of puts your credibility at risk as well. I think that it's amazing what you're doing, and granted, I'm not there in this case. We're taking your word for it, and if everything you're saying is true, man, this is a perfect case of injustice in our courts, and it's really a travesty the fact that this man has been in prison in and out of prison for 5 years for something that he didn't do on a charge that was levied against him during a obviously contentious divorce. It's very, very upsetting, and I really wish you all the best of luck, and I hope you guys can win, and I hope you see some justice, not only getting him out of jail.
That. Mac, I appreciate that, and I'm going to tell you right now, it takes courage maybe to stand beside somebody because of the nature of the charges, but I have no bones about standing up for what I believe is right what I believe is just, and innocent people do not belong in prison. And I know that if it was me, and I was innocent, I know that Charles, if the roles were reversed, he would be doing probably even more than I'm doing for him because he's better with computers. So.
Well, we'll be keeping this in the forefront of our minds here. If you have anything at all new coming up, just feel free to give us an update. You know, I'll be keeping tabs on the situation as well. But anything going on, especially, oh my goodness, if he actually gets back in court, let me know. I want to hear about it. And I appreciate you calling us, giving us these updates, Karen.
All right, thank you, and thank you for doing what you're doing and just keeping the truth out there, and you know, we need more people like you too. I want to wish everybody a good night.
Thank you, Karen. You have a good night too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break. When we get back, we should have another caller on the line. I have Rick Halley from the Gun Rights Coalition. He's going to be giving us a call here in a few moments, and we're going to talk about gun control, among other things. Anyway, we'll be right back, guys. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to miss this next segment. We'll be right back.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mac Worley III.
All right, MacPack, we're back. Sorry about the delay there. Anyway, we have a caller on the line. His name is Rick Halley. He's with the Gun Rights Coalition, and we're just going to talk a little bit about gun control and anything in particular that is going on here. He may have some information and some stories that he's came across here, so some new things that are happening. Hey, Rick, are you there?
I am.
All righty. So, first of all, thanks for joining us on the program. And I want to give you an opportunity here before we get into this here to talk about the Gun Rights Coalition and your mission and some of the places that people can go to get involved with Gun Rights Coalition.
All right. Well, the mission, I don't have the mission statement set in front of me, but basically the mission is to defend the inherent right to keep and bear arms through coordinated action, communication and coordinated action.
I got it right here. United Patriots to defend the inherent right to keep and bear arms through communication and coordinated action. So
there we go.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. Good memory on that. All right.
I knew I was close.
So as far as some of the things you guys are doing, and just so our listeners understand, the Gun Rights Coalition is in fact a coalition of other organizations. So what organizations are affiliated with you guys?
Oh, we have Liberty Watch. We have Moms Demand. What is it? Moms Demand. I can't remember what they're calling it now, but it's basically a counter to the Moms Demand Action.
I see.
Yeah, moms that are demanding their rights instead of trying to take the rights away. We have there's so many of them involved. We have some Tea Party groups. We have some Republican groups. We have some Libertarian groups. We have some. There's even one group involved that is a liberal group as well. That are all fighting for the inherent right to keep and bear arms. We're not really a group. While we do have a public group, our goal is not to create a separate group, but rather to unite all of the other groups together and get all of the other groups working together for a single cause and single goal where we all share the same goal. Some of them will Act for America, for instance, is working on Sharia law. Liberty Watch is working on the same basic goals as Oath Keepers. And then, others that have a variety of different goals, but we all have that same goal of fighting for the right to keep and bear arms.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and we all are, involved in that fight as well in different ways. So, and by the way, I just want to say thanks for the stuff that you guys are doing here in Washington. I'm really grateful that I've had an opportunity to meet you and a lot of the people that you're affiliated with in these organizations that you were talking about. It seems to me that there is a hardcore group of Second Amendment supporters out here, and those who really want to work together to make sure that our liberties are kept safe from the gun-grabbing liberals out there. But in terms of some of the things that you guys have worked on, I know you guys were standing in opposition to I-594, which I supported you in your opposition to that. I personally, I can't stand I-594, and I really am surprised that the three counties, the three basically loaded population counties, were responsible for its passing here in the state. Three little areas of population centers were responsible for basically telling the rest of the state how they were going to live their lives in reference to their gun rights. And I wanted to ask, as far as I don't know if you've seen the movement, I believe it's 1380 that has been being pushed by the Libertarian Party. It's talking about making every vote count and basically getting rid of the winner-take-all electoral vote system that we have out here. Have you looked into that at all?
I haven't. I can't honestly say that I've looked into that specific one. There's been, many ideas floated around and discussed, and I, usually am privy to some of those ideas. But in this case, I don't know the details of this particular thing.
Yeah, well, the reason why I bring it up is just because of the three counties having such an influence on that election in regards to I-594. And by the way, I know you have more of a finger on the pulse of opposition to I-594. Do you know if anything is going on right now to counteract or repeal I-594?
To counter and repeal I-594, there were some efforts made in the legislation this year to try and get some legislation passed to be able to in particular, the one that that I wish would have gone through was to not necessarily repeal, but to come back and send it to the voters again and let the voters have a chance to say, "Hey, wait a minute, this isn't what we thought it was."
Yes, sir.
Which of course, it was sold as they sold it as a bill of goods that it was not, and a lot of people until after the elections didn't realize that. Had they have done so, I don't think that it would have garnered that support and actually passed. So,
and a lot of that money that was used for I-594 came from out of state donors. We're talking big money, Bloomberg money, and things like that. And it was all being sold. We were being basically sold a bill of goods. I'm telling you, when I was on YouTube in the week or two before the election happened, I was getting bombarded with gun background checks save lives, and it was all these advertisements before the videos on YouTube. It would tell us that this prevents background checks prevent cops from dying. It was all these different ads by Bloomberg and his ilk that were telling us about these universal background checks, how important these are. And I just want to get your take on universal background checks. What do you think about them, Rick?
Background checks, period. Not just universal background checks, but background checks, period. For all background checks, anyone that supports them are supporting our choosing to release known dangerous people into society under the notion that we can do a background check and keep them from obtaining a firearm. It's an absurd notion.
Mm-hmm. And you're basically talking about the root cause of the entire reason why we have background checks is because we are releasing from prison people who are dangerous and should not have access to firearms, basically.
Correct. And I know that some people that are being denied access to firearms are being denied access when they don't necessarily have a valid reason for having them denied either.
And that's another problem too.
For those people.
Yeah,
for those people, we are denying them an inherent right to be able to defend themselves because they might be dangerous.
And some of that is ridiculous. So I talked about this on the last show, actually, about the expansion of classifications of felons. It never used to be, first of all, that when you got out of prison, you were denied your right to bear arms or your right to vote in elections. But that changed in the early 1900s, and now we have continued. We're continuing to do this to this day to expand the definition of what is a felon. As far as I'm concerned, a felon, somebody who is dangerous, those people need to have had caused some harm to somebody else, in my personal opinion. But we're making, people who evade on their taxes felons, people who do a number of different things. I mean, basically anything you do now could be considered a felony, and it's really upsetting to me that people who were involved in so-called crimes without victimless crimes, are being put in jail and being classified as felons, and then when they get out, they weren't involved. They did not do a single act of violence towards anyone, and now they're denied their right to bear arms, which is in fact denying them the right to defend themselves. What do you think about that, Rick?
Well, in that case, that's to me that is it's showing a lack of humanity, because if we're going to be humane, then we're not going to deny someone the inherent right to be able to defend themselves, or the inherent right to be able to go out and work, or the inherent right to be able to speak freely, or any of these rights once we have released them into society. Once we release them into society, then we have to assume that they are safe. If we can't, then we shouldn't be releasing them there.
Dude, I cannot. I cannot agree more with you.
And when we classify these, like you said, there's so many things these days that are everyday actions that can be considered felonious. That, as it stands, we are locking a lot of people up and putting them in prison for actions that are not dangerous to society, or that are frankly felonious actions that shouldn't be felonious in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you. If somebody's a danger to society, I don't think that they should get out of jail until that danger is no longer existing. Until they're not a danger anymore, they should not get out of jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect your $200. You keep your happy butt in jail until that danger subsides. But if we're talking about, giving people felony charges for example, we were talking last week about a woman who she was charged with felony resisting arrest of a police officer. She drove her vehicle less than a mile as a police officer was flagging her down, trying to pull over with sirens and lights and stuff like that. But on a dark country road, she drove less than a mile further down the road to a safe, lighted parking lot, and she was charged because she didn't immediately stop, although she did put on her blinkers and put her hand out the window to signal that, hey, I do understand that you're trying to pull me over. I'm just going to continue going down the road till I get somewhere safer and lit. That they charged her with felony resisting arrest. She didn't hurt anybody. She did not cause any damage. She didn't deprive anybody of their rights, and yet that's a felony. This woman is not a danger to society. If she went to prison for that and she got out, she's not going to be able to get a gun or vote. It's outrageous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
an example that's directly gun rights related is the Shannon Allen case in New Jersey, where
yes, sir.
She had a concealed firearm permit for her state and crossed the border, not realizing she had the firearm, and then was pulled over and immediately told the officer, "Yes, I have a firearm here," or told the officer that she had a firearm. It wasn't even asked. She offered the information, and then she was facing felony charges. She ended up. I can't remember the exact details of what they ended up doing. In the end, the governor pardoned her, but she was facing serious charges and denial of rights had that not have happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what do you think about this whole concept of needing to get the little permission slip from our government to say that we can conceal carry?
Do we have to get a permission slip to be able to speak? Do we have to be able to get a permission slip to be able to refuse unreasonable searches and seizures?
Well, pretty soon. Pretty soon it's going to come to that, don't you think?
Well, it seems to be. But we don't ask for permission to do those things. We don't have to ask for permission to do those things. We should not have to ask for permission to be able to defend ourselves. Does an ant have to ask for permission to defend itself? Does a dog have to ask permission to defend itself? I can go on and on and on, because every creature has some form of defense. For us, since we're facing people out there with firearms, our method of defense has to be able to have those firearms.
Well, what if they just made murder illegal? Do you think that would help?
Made what illegal? Firearms?
No, murder. If murder was illegal, don't you think it would help?
Well, of course, murder is already illegal.
What?
And it doesn't help.
Oh, okay. So,
of course,
yeah, I mean,
it doesn't help.
A little paper somewhere in Washington or in your state capital saying that this is a crime, it doesn't prevent criminals from doing that crime. You'd agree with that, right?
Oh yeah.
So
the fact is we've got. Oh, I don't remember the number now. It's well in excess of 20,000 gun laws on the books, and the crimes still happen.
And with that said, I mean, the paper doesn't stop murders from happening, and it would go the same for assaults and things like that, things where you are, in fact, hurting others. Do more gun control laws, do they actually prevent criminals from getting guns?
Oh, the criminals are going to get guns on the back streets. They're going to steal them. And if they can't do that, they will build them in their garages. And what most people don't understand and realize is that guns really are simple devices that anyone can make in their garage. And if they have access to a small machine shop, they can make a gun the same quality as what they put out in the factory. So.
Okay, so if it doesn't stop crimes from actually happening, and the gun control laws, they don't stop criminals from actually getting guns, what does it actually do when you control guns and you pass legislation for more gun control, restricting access to guns?
What it does is it puts more control in the state so that the state has more control over you. That's really what it boils down to. When you get down to it.
How would this affect, say, people who follow laws? Do you think that they would likely follow those laws?
Law-abiding people tend to try and, as best as they can, abide by the law.
So in this scenario, we would see,
and that creates a serious problem with gun control, because by doing so, that means that the criminals are the ones with the guns.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm getting at here is in this scenario, gun control is passed. Criminals, they don't listen to the laws anyway. Just by the definition, they commit crimes, they violate the law. And these little papers that are filed away in our Capitol buildings, they don't mean anything to these criminals because they don't respect the rule of law. So those that are respecting the rule of law, those are the ones that are being disarmed by these laws. And those aren't, by definition, law-abiding citizens are the ones that you didn't have to worry about committing heinous acts in the first place. They were no danger to society at all. So it doesn't matter what they had. It doesn't matter what weapons that they actually had access to. By definition, they are not the threats. So, and it doesn't mean that they couldn't potentially one day do something with the law or with the firearm, but it does mean that they are less likely to do it than, and those are the people that you didn't have to worry about. So, for me, this whole thing is very, very frustrating when we start treating our population, our people, as threats, as criminals, and the whole idea that I have to ask my government to first of all, hey government, can I get this little permission slip to conceal carry or carry a gun at all, to do something that is an inherent right that first of all, the government never gave us, that it belongs to us. I think it's despicable, but also it disarms the people and makes them more vulnerable to the criminals who now know that they're the only ones with guns.
Well, by requiring that permission slip, that means that you automatically are limiting the number of people that are going to do so, because they don't want to have to put out the extra effort to get those permission slips. Not only do they not want to put out that extra effort, but if I'm required to have a permission slip, then that assumes that I'm guilty until at which time I paid them a fee to run a search and determine that I'm innocent. And that's just not right.
And that search you're talking about,
our very Constitution says that we should be presumed innocent until proven guilty.
That search you're talking about is a background check as well. So they're conducting these searches on us without any kind of probable cause, any reasonable suspicion that we've committed a crime or are about to commit a crime. But yet we're still forced to submit to these kind of unreasonable searches and seizures to do something that's a right.
Correct. And for me, I've never spent a day in jail. I've never, other than a few traffic tickets, I've never been in any kind of trouble whatsoever. And therefore, there's no reason that I should not be able to pass a background check if I were to submit to one. But I shouldn't have to in the first place because I haven't done anything.
And even if you had, you shouldn't be out on the street if you had done something that would
Correct.
make you a danger to society. But yet, we're filling our prisons with all these nonviolent felons. A lot of this has to do with the war on drugs, and I know you and we kind of stand differently in the left-right paradigm. I consider myself more of a libertarian, and from the impressions I've got of you, Rick, and correct me if I'm wrong, would you consider yourself more of a conservative?
Well, it's funny because actually when we were up at the Capitol, we were both up there last Wednesday, and I was actually talking to a few people about that. Part of the issue with libertarian versus conservative versus liberal is the very definitions of those words themselves. And where I would call myself a conservative, because I am in favor of conservative government.
Yes, sir.
Not because I'm a conservative person, but because I'm in favor of conservative government. Same thing with liberal government. When I hear liberal, I think the term liberal government, where there's a liberal amount of government to go around, which I'm not in favor of. In reality, to a large extent, I'm pretty close to libertarian, Tea Party as well. The one I definitely will not identify with at all is the Democrats right now. However, that's not necessarily something that I would say was always the case. Democrats, 100 years ago, were not what they are today.
Mm-hmm.
So, had it been 100 years ago, I may have been more likely to identify with the Democrats. To be truthful, I don't identify with any party.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and honestly, that's how I am right now. I haven't been able to lock in totally to the Libertarian Party because I have some disagreements in regards to military strategies and border security, things along those lines. I'm not for open borders, but let me ask you, as far as your view on the war on drugs, do you think that it's doing good for our country or harming us?
When it comes to the war on drugs, I usually go back to the Constitution itself, and I see nothing in the Constitution that gives the federal government the right to wage a war on drugs. States, perhaps, yes, but not the federal government. And then even when it comes to the states, you got to look at what the harm is. Whether or not it really is a safety issue, as opposed to whether it's not. The odd thing is that even if they do that, the proper way to do so is to do so through the amendment process itself, not through these bills and whatnot that they've done. It's funny because they prohibited alcohol, and they used the right method to do so through amendment. And then shortly after that, the amendment was rescinded through another amendment. If they're going to wage a war on drugs, then that's the way it should be done.
Well, that way is long and arduous. It's a difficult process for them to get it through. And progressives, as you know, they don't like to go about things the long and hard way. They like to progressively just chip away at our liberties. So that's why they did it.
That's kind of funny because our government was intentionally set up to make it a long and arduous process to make sure that if that stuff did get passed, that it actually deserved to be passed.
Exactly. I mean, that's why these things are there. And that's why, it really upsets me when I hear the disdain in, for example, Obama's voice when he talks about checks and balances, how he's, I'd like to do it alone. If I could do it alone, I would. I'd just pass a executive order and make it happen. But yeah, I mean, these are the reasons why we have these checks and balances in the first place, to prevent one person or one branch of government or one state from just doing these kind of things, on their own. Nobody's supposed to be able to run things on their own. They're supposed to have to go through a long legal process, and it's supposed to go through all these checks and balances to make sure that it is in accordance with the Constitution of the United States. I mean, this is a supreme law of the land, and we're just, it's irrelevant now. They just. Go ahead.
I'm one of those people that actually, I actually do a little bit of a cheer every time that Congress comes in with low approval numbers, because they haven't been able to get anything done. Well, that's good. I would rather them not get anything done than to do something that they shouldn't be doing. Look at Obamacare. Obamacare's turned out to be a complete disaster.
Oh yeah.
And we can go on and on and on about things that they've pushed through and done that shouldn't have been done. In general, when the government does something, once they step in and start regulating stuff, it tends to be really inefficient and costly. And therefore, I would rather them spend a year there and get nothing done than get a bunch of stuff that shouldn't be done.
So Rick, I want to give you an example here. There is a place that is this progressive ideology's fantasy. It is the place that they wish that America would be. And I want to run down some descriptive descriptions of this place and see if you can figure out what I'm talking about in particular. Okay. Progressives, number one, they want us to be in a place that only the police or the state has access to firearms. That's their first thing. They want to make sure that everybody is disarmed, and the only people that has it are the people who are in power, so to speak. They work for the government, and then one of the other features is that they want all of the health care expenses to be completely covered and you don't have to worry about it. It's free. So, in particular, what place in the United States is like that right now?
Oh, in the United States?
Yeah.
We can probably name a few of them. New York would probably be my first. The first one I would think of. New Jersey's another, and even California.
The places I'm referring to are actually in every state in our union, and that place is actually prison. So, if you
okay, sure.
prisons. Only the guards have access to the guns, and they have free health care. And that is what the progressives are trying to turn America into, is prisons. And let me ask you, Rick, are prisons a safe place to be at?
I've never been in prison, so I can't tell you as far as whether they are. All I can do is, hearsay and secondhand information, but they don't seem to be, even with that, they don't seem to be that safe to me.
Exactly.
However, that is the most that's the only place you can actually get any kind of actual real security in the United States would be in prison. You can't get security even in a courthouse where they check for firearms when you're walking through the door. You truly don't have security even there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and what does that? I think what we have is this big facade of security. Where they're doing everything that they can, but still, if somebody is determined, if a threat is determined to actually cause violence, hurt somebody, take lives, even these little facades that we have, like unarmed guards places and metal detectors, even if there are armed guards, it's more of a deterrent. It hardens targets, and that's a good thing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but there are so many places where they want to totally just take the guns away from the people, and what happens is everybody past that small line of security is now vulnerable. And the way I see it, the people who disarmed them are responsible for their safety and should be held responsible monetarily if anything happens to them.
Well, that's my I personally, every legislator that has been responsible for making schools gun-free zones, I think they should be held responsible for their part in creating an atmosphere that is more dangerous to our children. And I know a lot of people will say that seems a bit outrageous, but it really isn't. By disarming anyone that is a lawful person anywhere in or near a school, they create an area where a criminal knows they're not going to face opposition.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Hey, Rick, we got to cut to a quick commercial break. Would you mind hanging with us? And I'd like to, when we come back from the break, I'd like to talk about allowing teachers to conceal carry in school. Do you have some more time to hang with us?
Certainly.
Awesome. Okay, we'll be right back, guys, after this break. And like I said, when we come back, we're going to be talking about concealed carry in school with our teachers. And I want to get Rick's take on this. So anyway, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mac Worley III.
And we're back. Thanks for sticking with us, MacPack. All right, we have Rick Halley on the line from Gun Rights Coalition. And Rick, I just want to get your take. Do you think that guns should be allowed in our schools? Should our teachers be allowed to get concealed carry permits and carry guns while they're on duty?
I think that they should. Maybe I vary a little from some people in that I do think that it would be good if they had an annual training to deal with specific situations that they might deal with in schools. However, as far as allowing them to do so, I think that if we allow a teacher to conceal carry, if they choose to do so, not forcing them to do so or asking them to do so, but if they choose to do so, by allowing them to do so, then we get a message back out to the criminals that they are no longer safe to come into the school because they might face someone that is able to meet them with equal force.
Do you think that's a good enough deterrent? Do you think that will make somebody think twice?
I think that meeting an equal force is a deterrent anytime. Studies have been done on criminals that have actually been arrested and been in jail, and they come out and they tell you that they're not afraid of law enforcement. They're afraid of armed civilians, armed homeowners. That's their greatest fear is when they try and push their will upon someone, having them meet them with equal force.
Absolutely, and for me, I agree. I think that the entire idea of softening a target by not allowing guns in there, all it is doing is literally just taking the guns out of the hands of people that you didn't have to worry about, because anyone else who doesn't listen to it is obviously not a law-abiding citizen, and that sign or that gun-free zone that you've created didn't actually prevent them from getting in there with the gun in the first place, especially if it's not controlled. And even if it is controlled and it has security, that doesn't mean that it's safe. It doesn't mean that it's completely safe, that nobody can get past that or find a way around it or even just shoot their way through it. What it does mean is that there's this soft target on the inside of this gun-free zone that no one in there has guns, or at least the law-abiding citizens in this area don't have guns. Like, for example, the military installation shooting that we saw in D.C. not too long ago. I think that was 2 years ago, roughly, something like that. Do you remember that, Rick?
The Navy deal, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's that exact same scenario. Even though it's a secured facility, it's a secured base, all they got to do is get onto the base, which is not difficult to do with a gun. It's not like they search and frisk every single person that comes onto the base. And even still, I know from my personal experience being in the military, working in the armory, you could bring a firearm onto base, and if you lived in base housing, you could store it there. And if you wanted to, you could also store it in the armory. So if you were just bringing a gun that wasn't registered for the base, you could just bring it onto the base and say, "Oh yeah, I'm taking it to the armory," and that's okay. But they just defeated the security, this gun-free zone. They just waltz right through security, and now they're one of the very few people that have access to a firearm on this gun-free zone facility.
That's where we have that illusion of security.
Mm-hmm.
We provide this supposed security and obtain an illusion of security that really, truly isn't there. And not only is it not there, but it's not only the people we don't need to worry about, but the fact that we've created an area where someone that is evil and that wants to go in and do harm to others, they know that's an area where they're unlikely to meet any kind of resistance.
Yes, sir.
Which is probably why most of our mass shootings occur in areas that are supposedly gun-free zones. You know, when we talk about the illusion of security, that brings to mind just this last week, where someone took a lawnmower operated copter deal, one-seat copter deal, whatever exactly that it was, and flew it right onto the White House lawn.
Oh yeah, you're talking like the drone,
which supposedly is not possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and we had the whole situation where the Secret Service and oh wow, those guys are getting hammered. It seems like in the news, just something something after the next, everything just keeps hitting them. They had the guy who jumped the fence, ran all the way across the lawn, made it inside to the living quarters of the first of the White.
Yep.
What was that?
Yep. Yeah, he actually made it inside. He got all the way inside.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the living quarters of the White House, and it's astounding to me that he was able to make it that far. And he wasn't even tackled and stopped by an on-duty Secret Service member. He was tackled by an off-duty, somebody coming off of shift and just so happened to be in the area, and they tackled him and took him down. And then the drone, and then there was I read a story not too long ago about a kid that somehow made it over the fence or something like that. It was like a little baby, and there was a big ordeal about that. So I mean, all these we're being told that these places are secure, but even the most secure places in the country, there are still people that can get in there. And it's if somebody was determined to hurt others and didn't care about what happened to their own self, they didn't care about their personal safety, they could do a lot of damage. And really, in my personal opinion, the best answer to that is not to increase the federal Leviathan's power, not to try to disarm the American people, not to try to eliminate the threat, because, number one, you try to take away guns, somebody can find their way in with a knife, with a sword, they can make their own gun, explosives. There's so many different things that can kill people. The answer is not to take away this one thing that makes it easier for us to defend ourselves. The answer is to make it easier for us to defend ourselves. Give us guns,
mm-hmm.
Or at least allow us to get our own. That I think is the answer. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I really would. That's it's kind of interesting. You mentioned that they'll find other ways. The worst mass murder in a school in U.S. history was not with guns. It was with a bomb, with a homemade bomb. At that, Bath, Massachusetts, I think it was. For anyone that's interested, they can look that up, and it was actually a bomb that was used.
Mm-hmm.
I actually looked at a list here a couple of years back. Garden sprayers with fuel, a volatile fuel mixture that they were using, that they were killing people with for one. I think that one was in Germany. Just some of the outrageous things that people come up with that are used in everyday life as we go about life, that they've converted to use for weapons of mass killing. So the fact is that no matter what we do, we're just living under an illusion of security. Our own Supreme Court has stated that we ourselves are responsible for our own security and defense. The police are not responsible for it, and that's a logical decision, because it's just simply impossible for the police to be everywhere at once.
Exactly.
Therefore, having us responsible for our own defense, that's the way it should be.
And that you're talking about is actually something that I talk about very frequently. That they have no obligation to defend you. So people who wish to confer all of the responsibility of securing our our safety to the state, and those people, in my opinion, are what I like to call statists, as is commonly referred to them. Those people who worship the state as almost a form of religion, they believe that the state can provide them everything from welfare, to food, to gas, to car. I mean, you name it, cell phones, health care, and they can also secure you. All of these things, they put their faith in the government. And it's impossible. It's an impossible task. And to give this task to this Leviathan, first of all, it's dangerous for our own personal liberty. But it's wrong. It's not only is it morally wrong, but it's mathematically wrong. It's incorrect. They cannot do it. They can't secure and defend you every hour of the day, and they can't be held responsible if anything happens to you, because they can't be there at all times. They cannot protect you. So yeah, it makes sense, and I agree with it, but it also needs to come with some common sense information, like, okay, well, maybe you should take your own responsibility to secure and defend yourself, and take some personal responsibility in some other areas of your life as well, because as Reagan said, I believe, a government that can give you anything that you want can also take away everything that you have.
Yeah, you used a term there that I kind of cringe a little bit at because you said common sense.
Yeah.
The problem is that common sense often is not good sense. And it's not necessarily the fault of the people when they use common sense and think it's good sense. We've got this media machine. We have these. Our leaders and representatives and people telling us that this is common sense. And therefore we're led to believe that it's common sense, whereas good sense means we go back and we look and actually determine whether or not it's accurate or not. Mm-hmm. In the case of for instance, the idea that more guns create more crime, for instance. They were talking about a bloodbath in Florida when they started allowing concealed carry there. And it turned around, and instead of being a bloodbath, their crime rate dropped. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the criminals got the message that the people were not easy targets anymore. It wasn't because people were shooting the criminals so much. It was because the criminals were afraid of being shot by the people. Our very own government lives under that standard. We keep, the United States keeps nuclear weapons on hand, not to use them against other countries, but to keep them from using anything against us. And it's the very exact same reason that I carry a firearm every day. Not because I want to use it against anyone, but to keep them from using theirs against me.
So let's talk about that for a moment, because you and I are both advocates for open carry. And I want to hear your response to, let me play devil's advocate here and oppose open carry in the fashion that I've heard most people oppose it is, why open carry? Why not just conceal it? Why not hide it, Rick? Why do you have to wear it on your hip or carry an assault rifle on your shoulder? Why do you have to have it openly displayed? There's
two main reasons that I particularly open carry. I open carry to deter first, because by seeing that I am armed and able to defend myself, that will deter someone else from attacking me. If I conceal carry instead of open carrying, then there is nothing on the outside for someone to see that's a criminal that's going to indicate that I have a way to defend myself. Therefore, I'm forced to have to act when I might have been able to deter it instead. And then the second reason is that if someone conceals carries, then by nature they have to cover it up with clothes or something to keep it concealed, which makes it harder to get to access to use. And that's the second reason.
Yes, sir. So As far as the other arguments, I hear this continually. People will continue to say, people like you, you open carriers are the reason why we're getting all these gun restrictions in the first place. If you continue to open carry, they're just going to pass more gun laws and we're going to lose these rights. So because of that, you need to stop open carrying. What do you have to say about that retort?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I think that's based on media and what the media tries to lead everyone to believe. When I'm walking around out there, and you know me, I open carry everywhere.
Yes, sir.
I open carry everywhere. And to date, I have never had a negative response. And I've been open carrying for 3 years now. And I have never had someone come up to me with any negative response. I have never noticed anyone freaking out or being upset or anything. On the contrary, from time to time, I do have people come up to me and thank me.
Mm-hmm.
But to date, I never have. So I think that's just I think it's kind of a fear tactic.
Do you think that asserting this right, this right to defend yourself and openly carry your weapon, do you think that actually using this right puts that right in danger of going away?
The idea that by exercising a right we endanger that right is an absurd notion.
You might as well not even have it in the first place if you can't use it, right?
If you're unable to exercise the right, then the right didn't exist in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, these are, I'm going to use this term again, common sense. And for me, I'm right with you, Rick. I actually, the words have been tainted, and they've been co-opted. The left co-ops our words. Pretty soon, being a patriot will mean being a Nazi. That is being a statist is what it's going to come down to. And it's really it's upsetting to me that our words get taken away from us and they get turned into something else. But this is common sense. These things make sense. If we have these rights, number one, we shouldn't have to ask for permission to use them because they're rights. They're not privileges granted upon us, bestowed upon us by our government. They're stuff that exists naturally. These things exist in nature, or they're created by our Creator. They're endowed upon us by our Creator, and however you want to look at it, either way, the government isn't the middleman in distributing these rights away. So the whole idea that we need to ask them for permission, number one, and then by using and asserting our rights, it puts them in danger of going away in the first place. I completely agree with you. They don't exist already, or at least they're not being respected. If there's any danger whatsoever of them going away just because we asserted them, it's astounding that is not common sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me it makes no sense whatsoever. The very fact that by exercising them we might endanger them leads me to believe that we have failed in the past to exercise them to make sure that we didn't endanger them when we should have. And we're while we do have these attacks and they really are pushing really hard right now, and in reality, we have made some good progress over the past 20 years to put a halt to and to recover some of the rights that we had allowed to disappear before that, as far as the gun rights go. But we have to be diligent because they are really fighting hard right now, and they are, we can look at I-594 where they spent over $10 million, and that was, something like 10 times what we were able to come up with to fight it.
So,
and of course, all that money came from out of state.
In terms of in terms of other rights, in particular here, if you had a situation where you were talking with a law enforcement officer and you weren't being detained, but they asked you for your identification, would you give that to them?
I'm gonna say it has to depend upon the situation, and it's also going to depend to an extent on how they've treated me in the first place. At the same time, do I think that they automatically have a right to see my identification? No. And in a case where they shouldn't have to see it, there's a good chance I'm going to, be polite about it, but deny them that because they don't necessarily, while they can ask, it's not a requirement that we show them an ID if we're simply walking the street.
Yes, sir.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be suspected of a crime. There has to be some reasonable suspicion or probable cause for them to get that information via force. I believe that they're entitled to ask, and they can come up and I guess harass you if depending on the circumstance, or just talk with you, and that's I think there's nothing wrong with that, with them asking you for information, but to coerce somebody via threat of force, I think that's a complete violation of the Fourth Amendment. So,
I generally, as far as law enforcement in dealing with them, I'll treat them the same way that I expect to be treated. And if they treat me differently, then I'll treat them differently as well. If I'm respected, then I'll show respect back. And we'll have, generally it turns out to be, a nice conversation.
Yes, sir.
But otherwise, again, I haven't been in the same situation that you were. I know your situation, and what I would have done there, I don't know. From what I could see of the video, there seemed to have been a clear-cut violation of rights there that really is upsetting to me. I personally have never been in a situation like that myself, so I just don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I saw a post last week that Dave Workman did about how would you react in this situation? It had to do with an open carrier in Walmart in Eastern Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you react to that situation? I can't answer that. Because, really, until I'm in that situation, I don't know what I'm going to do.
That's kind of how I felt. I didn't know how I would react, and I hadn't even given it any thought if it would escalate to that point. So, and by the way, for those of you who are not familiar with my unlawful arrest, I was open carrying in Vancouver, Washington, and there's actually a video. If you want to go check it out, it's youtube.com/OnTheMoveShow. It's our featured video on the main page there, and I got a bunch of other videos relating to that. But you can check it out for yourself. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about me in this. But anyway, Rick, we actually got to run. We got a couple other stories that we got to get to before the end of the show here. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And can you give us social media links and information for Gun Rights Coalition so people can go check it out?
It would be the easiest way is go to Facebook and look for Gun Rights Coalition. We have both a page and a group. If you're wanting to be actively involved in the conversations and discuss the issues, then the group is the place to be. The page is where we try and get the information posted that everyone needs to see nationwide. The group is where we discuss the issues and talk about them. So that's probably the best thing to do. You can also go to the gunrightscoalition.com website. However, keep in mind when you get there, you're going to be looking for the links to the Facebook group and page.
Yes, sir. Yeah, okay.
So.
And for those of you out there who would like to participate and join this conversation they're having in their groups, which I highly recommend, Rick is constantly posting a lot of interesting articles, a lot of good conversations that are had in this group. And I personally am a member, so I check out all the stuff that you're doing over there, Rick. You guys can go to facebook.com/groups/Gun Rights Coalition. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/Gun Rights Coalition. Anyway, Rick, I really appreciate your time, and thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Certainly.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
Well, I did too. Hey, feel free to call back anytime. Anyway, at this time, guys,
right.
We're going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about some of the other topics that we have here for today. So, like, for example, one of the things I want to mention is flag desecration. And I want to get your opinion. I'd like to get your involvement on this, guys. And, if not, no big deal. I'll just give you my monologue on it. But I'd rather have a dialogue than a monologue. I think it adds a whole lot more to the conversation and a whole lot more depth. depth to it. So I'd like to get your guys' participation. If you want, you can do so by commenting in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/OnTheMoveShow, and comment somewhere in there. Actually, I'll post the article, and you guys can comment on that in there from our groups. Anyway, we'll be right back after this break, guys. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mac Worley III.
All right, we're back. If you're just joining the program, we've had a pretty good show. Honestly, I really love having people on, having conversations with you guys. That is the reason why I do this. So let me just say right now, if you're listening and you would like to participate in the conversation, I would appreciate it. The number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that's 360-450-5625. Our MacPack phone lines are open, so feel free to light them up, guys. You can also give your analysis, your point of view, in several other ways. You can message us at facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Get us at Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. You can also email us at talk@OnTheMoveShow.com. So if you're nervous, you don't want to be on the phone, you don't want to, you don't feel like you're really good at public speaking, or maybe you're just nervous about it. I know how it is. I understand you. So feel free to contact us in any of those other ways. And also, by the way, if you're listening to this on the archive, on YouTube, however it is, because, things go out and we share it all over the place. So, feel free to comment on whatever platform that you're on, and I'll try to engage with you. We can have a conversation about stuff, and even if it's after the fact, even after the show isn't live. And if we have a really interesting and engaging conversation, I may talk about it on the air. So that is a good way to have your voice be heard as well. I want to, before we actually get into the next article here, because I made a post here just on our facebook.com/groups/OnTheMoveShow. That's our group. I also made a post in the event and on Twitter. So I'm going to give you guys some time to respond, to maybe look at the video of this woman who she tried to stop somebody from desecrating a flag. So I'd like to get your guys' opinion on that since we're live here on the air. But you guys can tell me what you think, what your point of view is, and then I'll tell you what mine is. Anyway, I have something that I want to bring up from one of our listeners that they brought to my attention here. This is Mark from Twitter. He sent us a link about how Hillary laughed in a 30-year-old interview as she recalled how she helped a suspected rapist walk free. And we're talking about presidential candidate, potentially, Hillary Clinton. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. She is actually running for president. I forgot. Last week we were talking about she's running for president. Ooh, Hillary Clinton. Woo. All right. So This is actually old news. I read about this a while ago, and obviously it's really old news. It's 30 years old. But Hillary says she'll never trust a polygraph again because she knew that this suspect was guilty, and yet she helped this person walk free after they were prosecuted, and they lost. The prosecution lost this crucial evidence. So. Let me just read the article here. It's dailymail.co.uk, and let's see if I can find out who it was written by. James Nye. James Nye, the science guy. No. Okay, so I don't think he's related. And maybe I'll have to pay some money for that conversation there. All right, let's see. This is on 16 June 2014, updated same day. So, all right, kind of an old article. In a newly unearthed audio interview, Hillary Clinton reveals how she managed to get a plea bargain for a man accused of raping a 12-year-old girl, and shockingly laughs as she indicated she knew he may have been guilty. During the course of the conversation, which dates from the early 1980s, Clinton, then age 27, outlines how she used a mistake by the prosecution to get 41-year-old Thomas Alfred Taylor to walk free. Indeed, so cavalier is her attitude to securing the freedom of a man suspected of raping a child that the shocking and candid interview may tarnish her role as an advocate for women and children in the United States. And I have the clip here. It's in the article. Let me see how long this is. Okay, this is 6 minutes long. I'm not going to play this. I don't want to punish you guys. But there is a tape. There's a tape of the conversation. Go check it out. If you question this at all, if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, literally the horse mouth, then you can go ahead and just listen to Hillary Clinton. So without further ado, let's go ahead and switch to our next topic at hand. And I want to talk particularly about, first of all, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and relate it also in terms of flag burning, flag desecration, things along those lines. You know, personally, I served in the military. I have a lot of respect for the flag. Obviously, I've pledged allegiance to this flag, but at the same time, I want to just clarify that symbols are important, but they are not more important than the rights that these symbols symbolize. Okay? So the symbol itself is important, but the symbol itself is not more important than our individual rights, our individual freedom. So with that in mind, the freedom to express oneself, the freedom of speech of an individual to burn a flag as a symbolic gesture, to stomp on the flag, though it is completely offensive to me, and I think it's abhorrent, and I think it's an extremely bad taste, I respect their right to do that action. So, it's tough. It's a difficult situation. But if we don't speak out and stand up for the rights that we find abhorrent, for the rights that we disagree with, if we don't stand up for this kind of speech, at least the right of an individual to say these kind of things, to express themselves in these manners, even if we disagree with them, if we don't speak up for those rights, we will lose those rights. Because the entire purpose of, for example, the First Amendment, the entire reason for it is not for the speech that we can all agree on, that offends no one. Because if it was not offending to anyone, then there's no need to protect it. No one would be trying to silence your speech. So the reason why we have a constitutional protection for individual free speech, the reason why we have this is for the speech that will offend, the expressions that will make people upset and try to get people to censor that speech. That's why we have freedom of speech protected in the Constitution. Because, if we lived in a perfect place, we wouldn't need this. If for example, I believe it was Walter something. Hold on a second. Let me go figure this out. I want to find out who said this really quick here. Suffers no fools. Walter Williams. He said that if we lived in heaven, we would not have a constitution. You would actually know that if you went to hell, you would know you're there by finding out that there was a constitution. Because at that point, there's There's no need for it if you're in heaven. If you're in a perfect place, a perfect society, you don't need that. If you have a perfect government, a perfect everything, you don't need rules and regulations because, and especially to protect you against some other force, some other entity that's more powerful than you. If you were in heaven, you wouldn't need these things. So anyway, I happen to agree with that. So let's get to this article here. This article is from theblaze.com, posted on the 18th of April, written by Zach Noble. When this female Air Force vet saw protesters stepping on the flag, she took action. It took 4 cops to bring her down. When she saw protesters disrespecting the flag, she took matters into her own hands. She didn't let up, and even when the cops got involved, Air Force veteran Michelle Manhart was detained but not charged in Georgia after an altercation in which she took a flag from Valdosta State University protesters who were stepping on it. The Valdosta Daily Times reported. Video from the scene shows Manhart debating the protesters as she clutches the tattered flag in her hands. The flag actually belongs to the entire United States, Manhart asserts as the protesters argue that she stole their property. Protesters seized on the way the cops are treating Manhart as evidence of racism. Is that not theft? A voice off camera asked police. If this had been in the hood, you would have had that expletive and some handcuffs right now. Look at that white privilege. Police demand that both Manhart and one protesters let go of the flag, but a standoff develops until the cops start tackling Manhart. It takes 4 officers several minutes to handcuff Manhart and pry the flag from her fingers. When asked why they don't stand up for the flag, the cops offered no response. So I'll play a little clip from this video here, and you guys can hear some of the conflict happen. I'm going to skip ahead to about, I think it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the video. So here we go.
Let it go. Let it go.
Stop. Do you see her hand on there? Do you see her hand on there?
All of you are
Let
let
it
go.
go. Why are you not touching her? Why are you not touching her?
Down.
No.
Calm
Let
down,
go.
Michelle.
Let go. DJ.
Down already.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
We give you a lawful command to let go of this flag, ma'am. It doesn't belong to you.
This lady's really doing this right now.
Ma'am.
She's resisting arrest. She's not being a police officer. She's resisting arrest.
You ain't gonna get shot down. Y'all back there? Everybody back up! Back up!
All right, so at this point, the police have the woman on the ground. She's been trying to resist them taking the flag. They've tackled her to the ground. Now they're yelling at the crowd of protesters to back up. There are 4 police officers surrounding this woman. And, all right, so I need to comment on this in particular here. And by the way, I went on to read the rest of the article here while this video was going on. The university protesters had been decrying racism, and Manhart had a response for them. If your cause is racism, then find some white people to walk on, said Manhart. But to walk on the flag is walking on our symbol of freedom. You have the freedom to do what you're doing because of it. I'm not fighting against them. I'm fighting against the way they are going about it. The woman is no stranger to controversy. She appears to be the same Michelle Manhart who was demoted after appearing nude in Playboy in 2007. So all of you out there can feel free to look that up if you have some extra time on your hands. Anyway, so let's move on. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. First and foremost, we got Stacy, who says, people would not want to desecrate my flag in front of me. Why won't these people ever do that crap around me? I cleaned that up a little bit, Stacy. Don't be angry. And then Don says we would have to gather up the bail. And let's see, we got D commented on here. Let me find that post. I accidentally clicked out of it here, and my computer's slow. All right, D says, while I understand why she stepped in, and perhaps it is her military training loyalty that fueled the situation, it is still our right to protest. D went on to say, agree that the police did their job and she was only detained and no charge. BS that once again racism was drug into the mix. Okay, so first of all, let's actually analyze the racism situation here. Was race involved? I don't think that the case could be made that this is racist because she didn't face charges because of a situation. First of all, the property was given back. The situation was squashed on hand. Yeah, the police could have went further and charged her. And in my opinion, maybe they should have, if in the interest of fairness, she did violate the law, and we are a nation of laws, not men. So just because the police officers and maybe the judges felt some pity on this person, maybe she should have been charged. I don't know. One thing I will tell you, though, and one thing I just want to point out, my philosophy as far as dealing with the police, all right, and most people would probably think that I'm this anti-police person. I'm not. I'm actually extremely pro peacekeeping law enforcement officers, really peacekeepers who honor their oath to the Constitution, and that is the key. All right, but even if they are in violation of the Constitution, even if they are, violating my rights, I personally am not going to fight them. I'm not going to physically resist them. That's just my philosophy, and I'm not casting judgment on anyone who does, especially if they are in the right. But what I will say is that this is a recipe for disaster, because they have the monopoly on force. And even if they don't have the monopoly on force here right now, if you start resisting, they will. And this is the best way to get yourself killed. Now, I've seen so many situations go out of hand because somebody didn't want to unlock their arms, which, by the way, I was reading an article on. If you have your arms crossed and you're hanging on and squeezing your arms down, it could take up to 6 officers to pry your arms open. This happens very frequently. And I don't know about you, but I've witnessed far too many videos where many police officers were on top of somebody, strangling them, putting them in chokeholds, giving them pressure points, laying on top of them, smashing their face into the pavement, and tasing them. I've seen situations where officers meant to pull a taser and pulled a gun and accidentally shot the suspect. Shot them. And I've seen situations where an officer says, quit touching my gun, quit touching my gun, pulls his gun and shoots the individual. So this to me seems like a real quick recipe to get hurt or killed. I would not be resisting. But let's actually talk about the point here, all right? The whole concept here that Manhart was trying to say is that the flag belongs to everyone. It doesn't belong to just you. It doesn't belong to individuals. It belongs to everyone. And therefore, if you're doing something disrespectful to that symbol of freedom that we've sworn an oath to, or an allegiance to, there we go, that she can come up and just take it from you. And I disagree. First of all, though I have the utmost respect for the symbol of freedom, I also have respect for the rights that it represents. I have more respect for the rights that it represents than the symbol itself. Otherwise, it's just a flag. It's just some colored cloth that means nothing if we don't respect the actual rights that it associates with, that it symbolizes. So, first of all, I believe her heart was probably in the right place, but I think that she did the wrong thing in this case. And at the same time, I wholeheartedly disagree with her that it belongs to everyone. Each and every flag in America belongs to every single one of us. No, some individual went into a store and bought that colored cloth. Somebody bought that item from a store, and as such, it belongs to them. It's their property. It's their personal property. I don't believe in this whole, it takes a village to raise a child, that everything belongs to everyone else. This redistribution of wealth, socialist kind of communist, we all are in this collective society together and all of that. I think that goes starkly in contrast to the values that this flag represents as a symbol itself. So by going after this and trying to thieve this property, I think that she went against the values that flag actually represented, and I think it was just misguided. I don't think that there was any, bad intentions behind it, but I think it was just misguided. I think that we all need to have a serious conversation here regarding patriotism, regarding nationalism, regarding hero worship. It seems like we keep coming back to this conversation. It seems like it's in the forefront of my mind. I get upset when I hear about how our words are being co-opted. I really do. I happen to like the word common sense, and I like using common sense, and we can't talk about it because now they're talking about gun sense is common sense. Gun control is common sense. Common sense gun control measures, which are not common sense at all, but they've co-opted these terms. Common sense has been co-opted. Liberal has been co-opted. Classic liberal is now needed to be put in front of it to actually mean the word that it meant, liberal. The root of the word was liberty. Liberty. I'm a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. Those are what those meant. But now liberal means something totally different. And there are so many instances of these words that meant something to us, freedom-loving Americans, those of us who love these symbols and these words, because that's what the words are, is they're symbols. And they're descriptive terms, just kind of like how when I say libertarian or conservative, kind of what I'm talking about. There are other words that are associated by these words. There's whole descriptions of what these words mean, but they change what they mean. They change the definition, and that is the problem. And I meant what I said earlier today. I think we are at a point in our nation when our symbols are going to be turned upside down and taken from us. I think before long, patriotism will be nationalism, will be Nazism. That's what happened in Germany. I like to say the word patriot, but I guarantee you, within my lifetime, patriot will be a dirty word. I won't want to use it because it will mean something totally different. So that's what the left does. They take things from us and they turn it into something else. What I will say is don't hold too hard on to these words, these terminologies, these symbols of freedom that we love and respect. You can't cling to these symbols, but what you can cling to is what they represent. All right? I love and respect the flag. It means a whole lot to me. It means a great deal to me. I do have allegiance to what the flag represents and the flag itself, as long as it still represents those things. But the moment it stops representing those things, and the moment it's co-opted, the moment we put the symbol above what it actually represents itself, is the moment it has no meaning anymore. And the moment that you need to stop clinging to those things. It's my opinion. Anyway, with that said, we're wrapping up the show here. We're going to go ahead and end it. We're not going to do an overdrive today. I really appreciate you guys tuning in week after week. And for those of you on Haywire Gulch, I just want to say thanks so much for your continued support over there. And go ahead and stick around for Patriot News. They're coming up next, I think. If they're running today, I'm not sure. I didn't check the schedule. But anyway, for those of you out there, we broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I would appreciate if you guys would follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMove. You can check out our homepage, OnTheMoveShow.com, and you can follow us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Subscribe to our YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and follow us on Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.